Sonraku Uzutom is a high schooler obsessed with one thing: conquering the absolute worst games out there, no matter how broken or frustrating they are. His gaming skills are top tier, and he's never met a challenge he couldn't beat. So when he's introduced to a cutting-edge VR game called Shangri-la Frontier, he skips past tutorials and dives straight into the action, expecting it to be a breeze. But this game is different. Packed with hidden secrets, impossible bosses, and grueling quests, Shangri-la Frontier pushes Sonraku to his limits. Will his unmatched gaming prowess be enough to conquer this virtual world, or is this the game that will finally defeat the unbeatable Sonraku? The story begins with a half-naked masked man defeating a monster, while a creepy girl celebrates the Dark Lord's defeat. The luchador-looking warrior named Sonraku watches proudly as the beast vanishes and the sun emerges. The strange girl praises him for their long journey, and Sonraku surprisingly talks to the sky, declaring it's time for Faria to join the Dark Lord. He rearranges her hideous face with his foot, stating she is the real menace in this world. Sonraku reveals he was in a game, proudly declaring he finally beat it and avenged everything Gargoyle put him through. In this world, display-based games are retro, while immersive VR games dominate. He confirms the rumors the game he just played was a giant pile of garbage. As the trash game hunter, he wonders what trash game to try next. Heading downstairs, he tells his weird mom that one of her butterflies escaped. Meanwhile, a girl stalks Sonraku, rehearsing how to ask him about video games, but another kid beats her to it. At a game shop, the owner Mana hopes summer vacation will boost business. Sonraku's stalker Rei arrives and Mana informs her that Sonraku isn't there today. Rei is too shy to admit her feelings, but Mana points out how nice it must be to be young and in love. She explains that Sonraku has been busy trying to crack an extra special trash game, which is why he hasn't been around. Mana shows Rei a game called Faria Chronicle Online, a legendary trash game with terrible AI, nonsensical enemy attack patterns. Just then, Sonraku arrives, looking for any new trash games. He approaches the counter and Rei, the coward, instantly disappears. Mana is shocked to see him and Sonraku proudly announces that he beat Faria Chronicle Online. Rei, lurking nearby, overhears him explain that the game was a spectacular pile of garbage, especially the female lead, Faria. She caused almost every problem he faced, making situations worse and getting villagers and party members killed. Despite this, she never faced consequences, always blaming the last boss, who did nothing wrong. Sonraku continues to trash the game, saying that if he ever gave Faria a shove to vent his frustration, she'd get upset, refusing to move the story along. The autosave would lock him in place, taking 3 hours to regain her favor. Mana wonders why he didn't just give up and get a real life, but Sonraku explains that's how they get you. Meanwhile, Rei smiles creepily while listening to him. Sonraku acknowledges the trash game was too good, leaving him unsure of what to play next. Mana suggests the absurd idea of not playing a trash game for once, explaining that experiencing life's lows helps appreciate the highs. She introduces him to Shangri-la Frontier, a fully immersive VR game with over 30 million players. With a not-so-subtle wink at Rei, she insists that trying things designed for mass appeal can be fun. Sonraku seems to consider it seriously. Back home, Sonraku's dedication to gaming reaches nerd levels as he studies the game's history. He discovers that Shangri-la Frontier SLF launched less than a year ago, setting a Guinness World Record for simultaneous logins. Sonraku sets down his gamer fuel and decides to try the game. We learn about the company behind it, Utopia Entertainment Software, founded by the genius programmer Tsukuyo Tsukuri, who developed a fully immersive VR system and leads in software. As Sonraku puts on his VR headset, he wonders how long it's been since he played something that wasn't trash. The game begins with character creation, and he's amazed by the variety of class options. He chooses a twin-blade mercenary for flexibility. As Sonraku discovers the extensive options for character customization, including race and body type, he makes strange noises, getting a bit too excited. Reminding himself to calm down, he realizes he's been so poisoned by trash games that even silly details blow him away. His finished character design looks a bit strange, but at least it saves everyone from his ugly face. Sonraku chooses to hide his face with a dumb-looking bird mask he'd rather not play half-naked while exposing his face. He uses the same name in every game, so he inputs Sonraku lying on his bed. He finally enters the game, skipping the prologue because who cares, and arrives in the world of the god tier game. Testing everything by running and climbing, Sonraku marvels at how much better everything feels compared to the game with the disgustingly hideous girl. He pulls out a map and wonders why he didn't start in a tutorial town like most games, unaware that wonders begin at a random point in the beginner's area. He decides to head to the starting town, checking his stats and noting his low defense due to being half naked, but he hopes his high luck will compensate. Suddenly, he's attacked by a goblin. Refusing to be a half-naked coward, he decides to test the game's combat engine. The brave little goblin initiates the fight, but likely regrets it as Sonraku uses a powerful attack to slice it in half. Impressed with himself, he acknowledges the goblin was just a scrub enemy, but it levels him up. He discovers that its axe can be dual-wielded. Something rustles in the bushes, an enemy emerges from the bushes, barely missing its attack on Sonraku. He acknowledges that the powerful attack would have taken him down if it hit. A terrifying bunny charges in for another strike, but this time Sunraku blocks and counters, landing a critical hit. The rabid bunny is relentless, continuing to attack. Disappointed with the game's offerings, he easily counters the bunny's next strikes and is pleased to level up again, though he wishes for a rabbit sword as loot. Just then, his stat screen reveals that he's unlocked the skill flash counter by meeting a certain condition. He appreciates the game's design, realizing that a player's skill enhances dodges and parries, allowing him to fight well against higher level enemies. His excitement grows as he reflects on how he hasn't encountered a single bug during his playtime. Sunraku sets out in search of another rabid bunny but pauses to obliterate an ogre, leveling up once more. He considers allocating his stat points and wishes the rabid bunnies would spawn more often, noting they must be rare. Despite killing 50 of them for sweet-looking dual swords and new skills, only one skill seems worth using. He decides to move forward, realizing he won't gain more levels from scrub-tier monsters. Straying too far from the starter town, he spots another town named Suviel. Approaching, he sees a snake with ponytails blocking a bridge. Relieved to face a real challenge, he prepares to fight the stylish serpent. Despite its cute appearance, it's the area boss meant for parties. Sunraku contemplates the typical snake attacks in games, confident in his avatar's movements. He charges forward, eager for an exciting battle. The exit of a nearby town, a crowd gazes in amazement at someone clad in gigantic armor. In the starting town of Fira, the townspeople recognize the high-level equipment and crest from an achievement-focused clan. They wonder what such a player is doing there. The figure, a girl, checks the names of those around her and notes that Sunraku gives all his characters the same name, though he isn't present. It's strange since all starting players eventually come to Fira. We see that Sunraku's stalker, Rei, knows no bounds as she searches for him in the game. Back with our feathered hero, he begins his attack on the snake, its movements mesmerizing as if stolen from an angel. Sunraku studies its patterns, skillfully dodging attacks and determining that it's still a beginner's boss, easy to read and lacking insta-kill moves. Realizing he can beat it without taking a hit since even one hit would kill him, he masterfully dodges another attack, only for his weapon to shatter. Recognizing the snake's tough scales, he decides to try out his blood blades. As he attacks, he quips about making snake fillets, but is surprised by purple goo spewing from the ponytailed python. Initially thinking it might be poop, he learns it's poison, causing damage every 10 seconds. Sunraku realizes he may have underestimated the snake and its flowing hair. He recalls defeating trash games with cheaper mechanics, believing a little poison won't take him down. With the poison dealing 1 damage every 10 seconds, he knows he has about 4 minutes to land a reliable critical hit to win. Using his bird brain, he deduces that criticals trigger under specific conditions, like striking an enemy's weak point. The snake's super tough scales make its head the likely weak point, but it's protective of its stylish hair. Instead, he opts to create his own weak point using the move screw pierce, attacking the wound he made. The snake screams in pain, its beautiful hair flowing like a shampoo commercial. As time runs out, Sunraku hacks away, uncertain of the snake's remaining HP. He reflects on how playing trash games made him cocky. He thought he could easily no-hit everything without recovery items. This arrogance leads to the snake consuming him, but he isn't finished yet. Using flash counter, he gains the upper hand, grabbing onto a lock of the snake's gorgeous hair. With one final screw pierced to its face, the snake's head explodes, and Sunraku revels in leveling up after defeating the foul beast. He notices his health is still dropping. Leaving no time to allocate his attribute points, he dumps them all into stamina and agility. Racing back to town for an antidote, he realizes he doesn't know where the shops are and won't make it in time. Unable to register a respawn point, he has no choice but to run like he's on a wild goose chase through the town. Yamamoto is ecstatic after 3 long months of trying. He finally convinced the girl he likes, Maya, to play SLF with him, taking on the role of the advice-giving veteran. He seizes the moment. However, their intimate encounter is interrupted by a raging lunatic Sunraku who's just emerged from combat. Maya mistakes him for a monster, but Yamamoto clarifies that he's a player. Maya considers attacking him anyway, but Yamamoto reminds her that killing players results in a skull icon next to their name, and she hesitates. Yamamoto then tells Sunraku where the inn is, explaining that the respawn point only registers once he sleeps in a bed. At the inn, the receptionist, far too calm, lists the amenities. Frantically, Sunraku rushes in, finally reaching his bed to register his respawn point. But he's still poisoned and dies. He returns to reality, disappointed but relieved to have not lost any items, and vows to thank the player who helped him while appreciating how awesome SLF is. Sunraku eventually arrives in Sandia, searching for essentials like a map and recovery items. He realizes perverts are staring at him for being half naked and decides to buy clothes first. He opts for the cheapest outfit to avoid the weird looks but strangely chooses to keep his bird head instead of wearing a mask. At the weapon shop, Sunraku is disappointed by the selection, but the shopkeeper mentions that Roll's bunny daggers are rare, piquing his interest. The man then offers to craft weapons if Sunraku brings him the materials. Wasting no time, he heads to an ore-rich area but becomes frustrated, swinging his pickaxe for over 30 minutes and only collecting 2 of the 6 pieces he needs. Just as he's about to give up, an annoying frog hops onto the scene, oblivious to the trouble it's about to cause. The frog swims in the mud as if competing in the Olympics, determined to take first place but has messed with the wrong bird. Sunraku, eyeing the innocent frog, initially believes they can coexist, but soon realizes the little creature wants to become materials. With a swift attack, he knocks it back, gearing up for the final blow. Knowing the frog has slash resistance due to its skin being part of his armor, he switches to bludgeoning and piercing attacks, deciding his axe is perfect for the job. However, he quickly gets frustrated as the marsh's mud slows down his movements significantly. Despite his efforts, the poor frog meets its demise at the beak-faced hero's hands. Yet the ease of the kill doesn't lift his spirits. Noticing an influx of new players thanks to summer break, Sunraku resolves to beat everyone to the race for materials. At the shop, Sunraku impresses the blacksmith with his haul of ore. The blacksmith reveals that one piece is special and can create 2 blades. After some time, they're ready, and Sunraku discovers their god-tier weapons. The enthusiastic NPC explains the importance of raising a weapon, which turns out to be just a fancy term for upgrading. Sunraku is amused by the blacksmith's over-the-top dedication, especially considering he's just an NPC. As the blacksmith warns Sunraku not to wander out at night in armor, Sunraku, brimming with confidence, plans to use the nocturnal creatures to test his new weapons and level up further. Meanwhile, the snake reemerges, more dazzling than ever, as Rei continues her relentless search for Oro. She scoured the beginner's area and deduces that he must have defeated the snake and moved on to Second Dale. Though she's skeptical of new players achieving such feats, she's convinced that if anyone can do it, it's Sunraku. Back in the wilderness, Sunraku faces off against a formidable golem. Recalling the lessons he's learned, monster spawns vary with day and night, and nocturnal beasts are indeed as dangerous as the blacksmith warned. This golem, however, proves to be on a whole different level with high HP and a clever fighting style. Just as he's starting to strategize, the golem lets out a wild battle cry, summoning a horde of goblins. Faced with overwhelming odds, Sunraku knows he'll have to sprint just to escape. But in a moment of clarity, he shakes off his fears. He's here to enjoy himself, not flee. With determination, he takes on the challenge and swiftly defeats the goblins. Reflecting on his experience, he realizes just how much fun he's having in this god-tier game. In that moment, a gigantic monster appears, marking the true challenge of Shangri-la frontier. Sunraku can hardly believe his eyes as he braces himself for the fight of his life. Meanwhile, Rei is in her room, still searching for Sunraku. She questions Yamamoto, who claims to have seen the bloodthirsty psycho. As Rei muses about her crush, Yamamoto advises her against attacking players, reminding her of the risks. He reveals that Sunraku went to Second Dale after the snake encounter, confirming that no other player is as bold as he is. Rei, astonished that he managed to defeat the python without even visiting the first town, decides to leave Yamamoto and the others a parting gift, a coordinate teleporter. As she zooms off, Yamamoto notes her clan emblem, recognizing her as a member focused on unique monsters, special creatures with individual names and titles, unlike regular monsters that respawn after a set time. Rumor has it there are 7 unique monsters known as Colossi in Shangri-La Frontier, but the spawn criteria for most remain a mystery. These formidable creatures are so powerful that top players have formed clans specifically to hunt them. Despite a player base of over 30 million, no one has managed to defeat a single Colossus in the game's year-long existence. Meanwhile, Sunraku finds himself face-to-face with one of these impossibly strong Colossi, the unique monster known as Aeon, the Night Slayer. He reflects on the goblins he fought earlier, realizing they pale in comparison to this fearsome beast, whose single attack could end him in an instant. As the giant wolf prepares to attack, Sunraku braces himself. He manages a block, but his counterattack falters. The battle is already taking a toll on him, yet he can't resist taunting the beast, mocking its reputation. Deep down, however, he's acutely aware of how close he is to defeat. He's grateful for the hours he spent grinding, knowing that without his perfected parry, he'd be staring at a game over screen. Sunraku narrowly avoids another brutal strike and realizes he must give it everything he has if he hopes to win. Switching to his Vorpal choppers from the rabies rabbit, he combines them with a movement ability, landing a critical hit, but the beast barely flinches. The fight continues, a whirlwind of dodges and strikes. The Night Slayer vanishes and reappears, landing devastating blows while Sunraku skillfully evades. As he counters, he chuckles at the challenge, feeling alive in a way he hasn't in a long time. He lands another strike but discovers the creature's pelt is tougher than the ponytailed python's scales. After 5 minutes of relentless fighting without taking damage, Sunraku realizes that, despite landing hundreds of critical hits, he's uncertain if he's inflicting any real harm. His once pristine Vorpal choppers are starting to wear down, and he understands he must locate the beast's weak point before his weapons disintegrate completely. Acknowledging the Colossus is far beyond his current capability, Sunraku revels in the challenge. This, he thinks, is what makes Shangri-La Frontier a god-tier game. His heart races with spine-tingling intensity as he delivers another series of critical strikes. He reflects on how no game has ever brought him such joy, particularly after enduring countless trash games plagued by bugs and poor balance. Yet, despite his fierce determination, another attack from the beast sends him sprawling, the Colossus roars, paralyzing him, and as the moon is obscured by clouds, it vanishes. In a shocking twist, Sunraku finds himself on the ground, realizing his legs have been obliterated. Confusion washes over him as he grapples with the pain of defeat. He accepts that he won't magically gain a new skill or be rescued by a high-level player. No cinematic moments will save him now. Just as he comes to terms with his fate, he discovers he still has 1 health point left. Miraculously, he's not done yet. He compliments the unique monster on its incredible strength, noting that this absurdity was precisely crafted by its creators. This means it is indeed beatable. In this very moment, Sunraku makes a pivotal decision. He realizes that he no longer cares about the game's final boss or the overarching story. Instead, he vows that one day he will conquer the unique monster that has bested him. Addressing Ligan, the Night Slayer, he defiantly declares that he will be the one to defeat it, ensuring that no one else claims victory first. But before he can gather his thoughts, the ferocious monster finishes him off, leaving behind a curse known as like against mark. Moments later, Sunraku respawns in Second Dale, only to discover the curse's harsh implications. He cannot equip any gear on the afflicted body parts. A quick assessment reveals that he's nearly covered in the mark, rendering his torso and legs useless for armor. Frustration bubbles over as he vents his anger at the disappearing wolf. This curse is relentless. It not only hampers his ability to equip items, but also causes lower-level monsters to flee from him. Conversations with NPCs are hindered, and the afflicted areas gain resistance to magic. The only way to lift this curse is through the prayers of a saint or by defeating its caster. Determined not to let this setback crush his spirit, Sunraku steps outside for fresh air, letting out a loud scream of frustration. This is the kind of broken curse you find in trash games, he exclaims, drawing curious glances from passersby. After calming himself, he recalls the 3 principles he learned from all those trash games: patient mind, unbreakable spirit, and cool-headed judgment. A quick check of his stats reveals the Silver Lining player has gained substantial experience from battling unique monsters, meaning he has leveled up significantly. He eagerly allocates his newly gained stat points, only to realize he's inadvertently crafted himself into a glass cannon capable of dying in a single hit. With 2 out of 4 armor slots unusable due to the curse, investing in vitality feels pointless. His best stat stands at 65 in luck, and he wonders if that's why he survived with just 1 health point. Surely luck has to be good for something, he muses, hoping it might save him again. Just then, a dapper bunny falls onto his head. This bunny is unlike any he's seen before, dressed impeccably. Curiosity piqued, Sunraku chases after it, convinced that its stylish attire means a rare item is within reach. Just as he's about to catch the little creature, it opens a door, shooting him a smug look as it escapes. Reading the message on the door, Sunraku learns it's a unique scenario and invitation from Rabbituza. He recalls information he read on the game guide. Shangri-la Frontier features a sweeping main story about exploring the world, but it also boasts a plethora of side quests. Unique scenarios are a special subset. Their unlock criteria, locations, and contents shrouded in mystery. The equipment, skills, and spells obtainable from these scenarios are rumored to be top class. As Sunraku pushes open the door, he reflects on how it's not unusual for clans to frantically search for unique scenarios. He chuckles, realizing that stumbling upon one this early in his journey feels like a stroke of luck, probably due to his hefty investment in his luck stat. He promises himself not to let this opportunity slip away. However, once he crosses the threshold, he's taken aback by the level requirement displayed 80, while he's only at level 28. Stepping inside, he finds himself in a vibrant world teeming with bunnies and their cherished carrots. For a moment, panic sets in. Did he accidentally wander into a monster's lair? Just then, he's greeted by a cheeky little bunny, the very one that had taunted him into entering this realm. The bunny eagerly reveals that all of Rabbituza is abuzz about Sunraku. Despite his personal weaknesses, Sunraku had the audacity to challenge the Night Slayer alone, and he possessed the skill to land perfect strikes without taking a single hit. To the bunnies, Sunraku embodies the spirit of the royal rabbit. Overwhelmed by the rabbit's enthusiasm, Sunraku is quick to downplay his accomplishments, noting he barely made a dent in the unique monster. But the bunny, undeterred, explains that the creature is immensely powerful, a colossus known as the Night Emperor, capable of devouring wyverns as if they were mere snacks. Sunraku begins to question the bunny's mental state, recalling that one trait of the curse is that conversations with NPCs can be affected. The little furball then insists that his boss would like to meet Sunraku. Skeptical, Sunraku wonders if this is a trap for the many bunnies he's previously defeated. The bunny dismisses his concerns, introducing himself as Emil. Emil reassures him that his boss, a powerful figure, is above petty matters like revenge. It turns out that many humans frequent Rabbituza, but Sunraku will be the first to enter the palace. This revelation excites him. This must be a unique scenario that only he knows about. As Imo leads him to his boss, Sonraku feels a powerful presence looming. The boss acknowledges Sonraku as the one who was bested by the unique monster he humorously refers to as a puppy. The giant rabbit expresses his initial doubts about humans, believing they lose their Vorpal soul too quickly. However, he now sees potential in Sonraku and shocks him by requesting some of his time. This gigantic rabbit introduces himself as Visat, the rabbit boss of Rabbit Tuza. Meanwhile, in the game shop, Mana catches Rei, the not-so-secret stalker, on the prowl for her crush, Sonraku. Rei tries to deny her feelings, but Mana sees right through her. With summer vacation in full swing, Mana deduces that he's likely in Shangri-la Frontier, sparking Rei's admission that she hasn't tracked him down since he skipped the first tutorial city. Mana laughs, noting that charting his own course is a classic Sonraku move, a typical play for someone used to trash games. She encourages Rei to up her stalking game, but surprises her by suggesting she confess her feelings to him. In a different scene, we briefly meet Rumi, the Atom, as she prepares to embark on her own storyline, only for her to exit and vanish from view. Back with Sonraku, he eagerly reads about the trigger conditions for the unique scenario at Rabbit Tuza. He learns that if he defeats a monster of a higher level while equipped with Vorpal weapons, a special Vorpal bunny will appear in any town, inviting him to Rabbit Tuza. Additionally, if he can conquer the terrifying Lonian python plaguing their city, he'll unlock the powerful enchant Vorpal spell. Sonraku reflects on his unique scenario from the day before, shaking his head in disbelief. Unlike any ordinary training session, he had found himself face to face with a Yakuza boss in the form of an intimidating bunny, exactly the kind of cuddly terror one might expect if mobsters started recruiting from petting zoos. Visat, the Yakuza bunny, had complimented Sonraku on his fight against the puppy, expressing admiration for his Vorpal soul. Yet, beneath the flattery, Sonraku couldn't shake off his intimidation, pondering the true meaning of a Vorpal soul. Just then, the Yakuza bunny made him an offer he couldn't refuse, a training quest designed to elevate his abilities. Realizing the potential of a unique scenario training quest, Sonraku quickly accepted. However, his attempt at humor by calling Visat Aniki nearly earned him a swift smack. The imposing bunny glared, but instead of lashing out, he let out a hearty laugh, acknowledging Sonraku as his underling and asking him to call him Vash. It was a privilege reserved for those with potential, and Sonraku, relieved to escape unscathed, gratefully accepted. Vash turned to Emil, his excitement palpable, instructing the little bunny to look after Sonraku. Emil bounced with enthusiasm, eager to show Sonraku around the palace. However, Sonraku politely declined, needing a moment to recuperate after his intense session. Internally, he was eager to research more about unique scenarios and monsters. Before departing, Vash remembered something crucial and placed a Vorpal soul collar around Sonraku's neck. Shocked, Sonraku discovered that this collar granted 2.5 times the stat points upon leveling up, but only provided half the experience. He immediately attempted to remove it, but Vash warned him against it, insisting that true growth comes from enduring extraordinary hardships. The goofy little bunny playfully commented on how great the collar looked on him, leaving Sonraku feeling incredulous about being saddled with yet another restriction. Back in the present, Sonraku acknowledged the upsides of the collar. Getting more stat points was certainly an advantage, even if the experience gain was limited. He realized that no one in the forum seemed to have heard of Vash, Emil, or the Vorpal soul collar. He was on the brink of discovering a unique scenario that no one else knew about, and the excitement was overwhelming. But before he could fully immerse himself in this newfound adventure, he had an appointment with someone named Katsu. Logging into a game he hadn't touched in ages, he entered Berserk Online Passion, affectionately dubbed Burp by its dwindling player base. The fighting game had fallen to fewer than 100 active users daily, raising eyebrows about how the servers still operated. Most remaining players were die-hard trash game enthusiasts, and Sonraku was about to meet one of them. Upon arriving, Sonraku greeted Katsu and inquired about the rules of their upcoming fight. The battle commenced with Katsu showcasing his new move, an outlandish impression of Luffy without a straw hat. Anything goes, he reminded Sonraku, before unveiling his latest creation, the NSFW tentacle attack. Sonraku watched in astonishment as Katsu's new glitch unfolded, bemused at how a madman like him could rise to become a pro gamer. Laughter filled the air as they faced off, the absurdity of their unique fighting styles combining to create an unforgettable experience. Katsu was taken aback as Sonraku managed to block his attack despite using a delay. Katsu called him the real madman for having such incredible reaction speed. Sonraku grinned, proudly asserting that his quick draw fist was the ultimate fighting style. As long as he had 12 frames, he could counter even the fiercest boss insta-kill attacks unscathed. Their battle unfolded like an epic scene straight out of One Piece, drawing the attention of onlookers. Even in a trash game like Burp, their clash showcased why it had a niche appeal anything goes. As Katsu unleashed a series of Gatling gun punches, Sonraku celebrated when he broke off one of Katsu's fists, but fortune quickly turned, as that very fist became the unwitting cause of his defeat. Sonraku couldn't believe the afterimage textures were part of the hitbox, leaving him stunned as he was announced the loser. He thanked Katsu for the match, genuinely appreciative. After fighting nothing but NPCs recently, he needed a good PvP challenge. Katsu, still in disbelief, belief that Sonraku was playing Shangri-La Frontier, wondered if he was joking. Sonraku took pride in admitting his passion for the game, explaining how it featured incredibly powerful monsters known as the Seven Colossi. The entire player base had only managed to uncover 4 of their names, and no one had beaten a single one since launch. Katsu's interest was piqued. He considered trying out SLF himself. In the meantime, Katsu had messaged someone about Sonraku playing SLF. Cut to a purple-haired girl battling a horde of players. Upon receiving Katsu's message, she chuckled, having always suspected Sonraku had some odd condition that would cause him to perish if he stopped playing trash games. After dispatching her opponents, she reveled in her recent achievement, the Player Kill Badge, for eliminating real players. Excitement bubbled within her as she resolved to gently guide Sonraku through SLF. Back in Shangri-La Frontier, Sonraku returned to Second Dale, feeling grateful for Emil's teleportation ability. As they prepared to venture into Rabbit Tuza, he couldn't help but reflect on the ease of movement he experienced with his avatar, wondering if his time spent in Burp had something to do with it. Emil, eager to show Sonraku around, asked why he wanted to leave so soon when there was so much to explore in Rabbit Tuza. Sonraku explained that reaching 3rd Rima before the crowds descended was crucial. With summer break underway, player numbers had surged, causing log jams at facilities and fierce competition for monsters and mining spots. Plus, 3rd Rima was a larger city, perfect for his unique scenario adventures. Emil nodded enthusiastically but was hilariously confused by Sonraku's explanation. Regardless, he was more than happy to assist, and Sonraku was thrilled to discover that he could add NPCs to his party. Emil explained that Sonraku wouldn't reach Rabbit Tuza or the palace without him. While Sonraku initially thought Emil would just be tagging along, he soon accepted the party request, only to find that Emil's stats were even higher than his own. Not worried, Sonraku was confident he would surpass the little bunny soon. Before they set out, 2 girls approached, fawning over the adorable talking bunny. They wondered if they could keep him as a pet, but their admiration quickly turned to shock when they noticed Sonraku half naked and looking quite the pervert. Realizing he had been so distracted, Sonraku cursed his luck for failing to consider the implications of traveling with an NPC from a unique scenario. In an attempt to protect his secret, he jumped in front of Emil, shouting that it was all just a ventriloquism act, and bolted away. Unfortunately, one of the inquisitive girls snapped a picture, eager to ask the forums where they could find a talking bunny like Emil. Once they finally escaped the throng, Emil sheepishly admitted that he wasn't exactly a high-level athlete. Sonraku observed Emil, noting that the little bunny didn't seem well suited for all the running around. Still, Emil eagerly awaited their next task. Sonraku explained that he wanted to confirm something about his curse, specifically the part that indicated monsters of a lower level than the afflicted character would flee. Just then, a lower-leveled monster appeared, only to scamper away at the sight of the curse. Seizing the opportunity, Sonraku dashed after it like a bird-cheetah hybrid. However, he didn't chase mindlessly, he had a plan. As the monster changed direction, he expertly threw his weapon, forcing it to stop. With perfect timing, Sonraku unleashed a flurry of attacks at the highest speed he could muster, taking advantage of the attack bonus from inertia principle often overlooked in games. He marveled at how Shangri-La Frontier emulated reality so closely. Emil arrived, bouncing with excitement, eager to celebrate Sonraku's impressive fighting skills. He could hardly distinguish between Sonraku and the fleeing monster. With the test complete, Sonraku was ready to move forward. He decided to ignore the weaker monsters and head straight for the area boss. Emil was in awe of the plan's simplicity, and the two took off, filled with anticipation for the challenge ahead. However, frustration soon washed over Sonraku as they reached the area where the boss should be, only to find nothing but swamp as far as the eye could see. Emil fretted over his stylish clothes, while Sonraku recalled their earlier conversation. Emil had informed him that the area boss was a monster named Mud Digger, known for rocketing out of the ground to attack. They needed a strategy to hold it in place. Sonraku's heart sank as he realized he was about to face the Mud Digger in a swamp, a perilous situation. Just then, Emil sensed the beast's presence and Sonraku lifted him onto his shoulder. Moving through the swamp was incredibly difficult, but they barely managed to avoid a devastating attack as the giant monster emerged. In this unique terrain, Shangri-La Frontier forced a walking state, which meant that one leg remained trapped in the marsh while the other foot struggled to find solid ground. The ferocious beast was undeniably powerful, with a recommended party size of 4 for tackling it. Sonraku's initial excitement transformed into dread. He realized he might have made a huge mistake in this matchup. As the Mud Digger dove into the shallow swamp, game logic gave it an edge. Emil panicked, fearing they would be skinned alive. However, Sonraku remained composed, utilizing his slide move to narrowly escape a lethal attack. He acknowledged that figuring out how to use the skills he had evolved after battling the Lonian was crucial to winning this fight. His perfected move, the perfect parry, allowed him to counterattack instantly after timing his parry just right, giving him a fighting chance against the formidable Mud Digger. Emil watched in awe as Sonraku executed his moves, But Sanraku felt far from satisfied. He was merely dodging damage with both skills he had just used on a 10-second recast timer. The relentless beast offered him no respite, but Emil came to the rescue with an impressive magic attack. Sanraku realized in that moment that he had been so focused on playing solo that he had completely overlooked the advantages of having a partner. Knowing he couldn't waste this opportunity, Sanraku activated an ability that temporarily boosted his attack power and agility. Unfortunately, moving quickly through the swamp proved to be a challenge. The beast recovered from its earlier encounter, but Sanraku seized the moment to unleash the evolution of his screw-pierce attack, called Spiral Edge. This new ability positioned them more favorably, and Emil deftly balanced on a precarious platform, a skill honed from years of playing trash games with terrible mechanics. As Emil prepared for another attack, the ferocious beast lunged, but Sanraku narrowly avoided it thanks to his repel counter. Emil followed up with a powerful strike, showcasing just how much of a glass cannon Sanraku was. As even a tiny bit of fall damage chipped away a large portion of his health, Sanraku praised his furry teammate, but Emil was more worried about her sweet outfit than the fight. Confident that the beast was significantly weakened, Sanraku was taken aback when it suddenly vanished. Before he could process this, the ground began to shake beneath them, and Sanraku felt as though his feet were being sucked down. They quickly realized that the mud digger was preparing to launch itself out of the ground for a powerful attack. Without hesitation, Sanraku dove to save Emil, only to be surprised when he was thrown into the air. It wasn't an insta-kill attack, in fact, it barely dealt any damage. The mud digger was notorious for its special moves that activated once its HP fell below a certain threshold. By vibrating the swamp, it could hold a player in place and then launch them into the air with its snout. If a player challenged it solo, they would face this attack every time they remained in the swamp, leading to significant fall damage and earning it the nickname Solo Killer. Sanraku despised the design choice. Feeling that it rendered player skills irrelevant, he considered having Emil hit him from the side, but knew that would lead to disaster. Resigned to his fate, Sanraku admitted he could never get used to fall damage in VR games. Fortunately, Emil was no quitter. Her Vorpal spirit shone through as she used a magic scroll to teleport Sanraku. However, instead of safety, she accidentally sent him back into the air. They learned that an attack skill called Meteor Fall utilized downward energy. Sanraku had built up significant momentum from his fall, and Emil's accidental teleportation positioned him perfectly above the mud digger. What would have been a disastrous fall transformed into a risky but powerful attack. Sanraku launched downward, and the creature exploded into pieces, leaving him in complete disbelief at his survival. Unable to comprehend the whirlwind of events, he merely complimented Emil on her clutch performance. He reflected on how tough the fight had been, likening it to his battle against the Lonian, but this time they were the victors. Afterward, Emil excitedly shoved healing herbs down Sanraku's throat, humorously noting that it was the only way anything could reach his mouth given his giant beak. Sanraku realized just how strong Emil was, feeling guilty for his earlier cockiness. Meanwhile, Emil was thrilled at the prospect of staying in Rabbit Tuza full-time once they reached the big city. However, she worried that being seen might draw unwanted attention, just like before. Determined to find a solution, Emil unveiled her secret weapon, her mysterious Vorpal bracelet, a treasure belonging to the Vorpal bunnies. She shyly asked Sanraku to keep it a secret and transformed into a human. Sanraku was speechless, feeling unsettled as he began to realize that Japan's so-called flagship god-tier game was beginning to resemble a harem game featuring a bunny girl. However, the transformation took a toll on Emil. She could only maintain it for 4 to 5 minutes at a time. While her transformation was perfect for hiding her, it could attract unwanted attention, especially when people saw a girl struggling to drag around a half-naked birdman. When they finally arrived at Third Rima, Emil pointed out how unimpressed Sanraku appeared. With pride, she boasted about his travels, amazed by his experiences. Yet, Sanraku quickly learned he was the attention getter when guards stopped them, questioning why he was half naked and curious about his scarred body. Emil came to his defense, spinning an elaborate tale about Sanraku's past, a story filled with danger, a curse, and his quest for redemption. She wove her narrative dramatically, stating that this was just the first chapter in his story, and that the second would see him transform into a super warrior. The guards, overwhelmed by her theatrics, waved them through, seemingly moved by the intensity of her tale. Amid the crowd watching Emil's performance, Sanraku noticed someone giving him an unusual look different from the usual judgmental glances he received for being a half-naked birdman. Before they could enter the city, a girl rushed forward, recognizing him. Sanraku had no idea who this frantic girl was, but we caught a glimpse of what happened after those girls and Second Dale snapped a photo. They had posted it on a forum, asking if anyone knew how to befriend the adorable bunny. The post spread like wildfire, shocking players at the revelation that a monster could talk, and equally astonished to see a half-naked birdman. The silver-haired girl was more shocked than anyone. She had believed that the game only allowed players to tame dogs and cats, and concluded that Sanraku must be cheating. The ethics of posting someone's picture without their consent was hotly debated as the frenzy around them grew. The silver-haired girl set off on her mission to track down the Pigeon Man. Meanwhile, the attention surrounding Sanraku intensified, as many players had never seen scars like his, especially since nothing similar existed in the character creator. Someone on the forums recalled that these scars were a curse, a mark of being acknowledged by the Night Emperor. This rare piece of lore had only come to light after an NPC had mentioned it. Players were stunned to realize that Sonraku, known by his in-game name, had encountered the Lawn. Some players noted that the Lawn could be a random encounter, raising questions about how a beginner like Sonraku managed to gain the Night Emperor's recognition. A player named Orsot responded on the forum, claiming he could spawn kill Sonraku until he spilled the secrets of how to achieve such a feat. This sparked concern among other players, who knew Orsot was the feared leader of Shurikai, a clan notorious for harboring player killers. Many began to wonder if Sonraku would be safe. Forum discussions erupted over the game's brutal mechanics. If a player killed too much, dying to another player or NPC would result in the loss of all their items, including those stored. Additionally, any bounty placed on a player killer would be deducted from the killer's own cash. The system was ruthless. Among the chatter, a red-headed lady expressed a keen interest in Sonraku and left a message on the forums, hoping he would read it. She advised him to speak to any player sporting a wolf and sword emblem, offering her clan's protection. As the news of Sonraku's exploits spread like wildfire, players began treating him as if he were an event boss. Yet, the silver-haired girl was the first to reach him, her sole interest being how to tame a Vorpal bunny. This was a first for Sonraku, and he quickly deduced that the rumors must have originated from Second Dale. He had no intention of spilling the details of the unique Vorpal bunny scenario. Their conversation was abruptly interrupted by an unexpected attack. The assailant gleefully remarked that it wasn't fair to keep secrets to oneself and insisted that everyone should share in the fun. To Sonraku's surprise, she called him Revolutionary Knight Sonraku. Recognizing her, Sonraku exclaimed, "The great pencil knight has finally shown her face." The girl, clearly displeased with how he addressed her, corrected him, stating that in this game she was not Pencil Knight. In a shocking reveal, she removed her mask and introduced herself as Arthur Pencilgon. Sonraku was stunned. Not only was she level 99, but she also wore the skull badge that marked her as a player killer. Sonraku referred to Arthur as a friend from the trash game Unite rounds, where they had shared a memorable escapade. They had been involved in a robbery gone awry where Sonraku outsmarted a group of thieves and turned the tables on them. Players affectionately dubbed this trash game a post-apocalyptic looting simulator. Initially designed to simulate a kingdom on the brink of collapse, players assumed the roles of knights defending it against monstrous threats. However, the game suffered from atrocious design choices, prioritizing a faithful recreation of the concept over player enjoyment. Drop rates were infamously low, discouraging players from engaging in traditional quests. Even beginner quests required an excruciating 12 hours of grinding through open fields. As a result, players resorted to stealing what they needed, instead of grinding for hours. In an environment rife with hostility, a lone figure emerged, driven by violence to seize control of the kingdom, the notorious Great Pencil Knight. One day, Sonraku found himself looting corpses in the chaotic world of Unite rounds, where Katsu attempted to remind him that the game was originally about defending the kingdom from monsters. However, Sonraku pointed out that the real focus had shifted to defeating the infamous Pencil Knight. This character was nothing like the final boss written into the game's lore. She abused players she deemed unworthy and instigated them, ensuring they remained trapped in the game's relentless grind. At this moment, the entire game was at the mercy of one player, the dystopian Empress. Sonraku and Katsu planned to assassinate her, only for the Empress to recognize them, realizing they had used a rebel army as a distraction. Confidence radiated from the duo as they informed her that her traps were far too easy to overcome, breaking them on their first try. Though it was their first encounter, the Empress was impressed and decided to remember their names. Pencil Knight, annoyed by Sonraku's smirk, questioned whether they truly believed they could defeat her to earn the title of Revolutionary Knight. Flashing back to a previous clash, Sonraku recalled how their last battle ended in a draw, with both of them perishing. Now, however, the level gap between them was massive. Pencilgon swiftly initiated the fight, boasting that she had traveled all the way from Fetisha to hunt him down and teasing him about feeling flattered enough to cry. Not only was she a skilled trash talker, but she was also a formidable opponent. As Sonraku focused on blocking her poison attacks, he recognized her skills. She assumed he was around level 30, complementing his dodging prowess. The crazy silver-haired girl watching the battle had a moment of realization, connecting Pencilgon to the notorious player-killer clan, Orai. Known as the Giant Killer, Pencilgon had built her reputation on ambushing higher-level players, but recent nerfs to her strategy made that much harder. Sonraku couldn't help but point out the irony of her being the giant in the previous game, and they shared a laugh before the mood turned serious again. As Pencilgon ramped up her relentless assaults, she taunted Aro, calling him a bird brain amidst the chaos. Emul, in the background, realized something but remained silent, her anxiety palpable. Finally, Pencilgon revealed she hadn't come for personal reasons. She was delivering a message from her clan's leader. The warning was clear. Sonraku needed to publicize the unique scenario involving Emul or risk becoming a target. Sonraku bristled at the threat, dismissing the leader as a fool, and Pencilgon surprisingly agreed. Despite their banter, he knew he was at a disadvantage in both level and equipment. However, he deduced that Pencilgon seemed intent on keeping him away from the city gates. Her carefully timed attacks hinted at her desire to prevent him from entering, which was a challenge for a player killer in a crowded area. Meanwhile, Imol's bunny tail reappeared, signaling her impending transformation back into a Vorpal bunny. She was desperate to communicate this to Sonraku without drawing attention. As chaos escalated, the silver-haired girl decided to confront Emil about how to obtain a Vorpal bunny pet. To her shock, she found Emil adorned with bunny accessories, and moments later, witnessed her transform into the very bunny she had been searching for. Panic surged through Sonraku as he realized this was the worst possible moment for Emil's transformation. Pencil Gone, refusing to be ignored, was taken aback when Sonraku executed his repel counter move, knocking her back. With a mix of fury and admiration, he called Emil to his side, catching his furry companion in his arms. The silver-haired girl, fueled by her obsession with the adorable bunny, declared she would eliminate Pencil Gone if it meant protecting Emil. Sonraku's heart soared. This was precisely what he hoped for. He recognized that this girl named Animelia was deeply invested in his furry friend's safety and was prepared to put herself in danger for her. With newfound determination, Sonraku prepared to make a mad dash toward the gate, knowing that with Emil and Animelia by his side, they stood a fighting chance against Pencil Gone and the chaos that awaited them. Sonraku praised Emil for being a great mascot, knowing that if he could just get into town, Emil could create a teleport gate to Rabbit Uza where no one would be able to track him. However, his plan quickly ran into trouble when Pencil Gone casually revealed that she hadn't come alone. A group of tough-looking players from her clan surrounded Sonraku, their faces twisted in distaste at the prospect of having to PK a lower-level player. They were all too aware of the consequences if they didn't comply with Pencil Gone. They risked facing her wrath themselves. Pencil Gone smirked as she recognized Animelia as the keeper of the SF Zoo, a monster documenting clan with no interest in player conflicts. Grateful for the opportunity Sonraku had presented her, she prepared for battle. Meanwhile, Sonraku was preoccupied, desperately trying to avoid being taken out by the group closing in on him. Animelia was more than just an eccentric animal lover. She unleashed a powerful spell, aiming to shift the tide of the battle. But Pencil Gone expertly consumed the attack, firing it back at Animelia. Surprised, Animelia was even more astonished when Pencil Gone revealed that she had reflected all the curses from her attack using the Karmic Straw Doll, an incredible item that reversed status effects back to the caster. As Pencil Gone crushed the doll, she assured Animelia that she would enjoy watching her die by her own poison. Sonraku found himself in a precarious position, vastly outnumbered and outleveled by his opponents, all decked out in top-tier gear. He analyzed the group, deciding that his best target was a slow-moving player wielding a long sword, as dodging their attacks didn't require skills. However, the real challenge was figuring out how to deal damage to such high-level opponents. Just when things seemed dire, a massive figure crashed into the scene, obliterating one of Pencil Gone's attackers in a single blow. Shock rippled through the group as they realized they were facing the unparalleled firepower of the infamous attack master. Sonraku had no idea who this newcomer was, but couldn't shake the feeling that things were escalating dangerously. The giant armored knight turned out to be Recur Stalker Rei, and she was thrilled to have finally found Sonraku, the apple of her eye. A flashback revealed Rei's frustration at not being able to find him, despite her efforts. She remembered how Mana had advised her to confess her feelings, but the games Sonraku played were always too challenging for her to join him. Now, however, with SLF in play, she was determined not to let this chance slip away. Upon returning to the game, Rei received a message from her sister, Saiger, detailing Sonraku's location and urging her to reach out to him. This was Rei's first real opportunity to connect with him, and she rushed to his side, aware that clans were already plotting to approach him, including the dangerous Orai. She spotted Sonraku in the thick of battle, realizing this might be her only chance to save him. The prospect of finally talking to him in real life fueled her determination, leading to her explosive entrance. Pencil Gone, recognizing the shift in momentum, assessed the situation. She had suspected that the Peekers from her clan would struggle against Sonraku, but fighting him in SLF made it clear that his diverse gaming skills were far more valuable than any unique items or high-level stats. Then shock hit Pencil Gone as she realized the new arrival was none other than Saiger Zero. Somehow, Sonraku had lured both the Zookeeper and the Attack Master into this chaotic scenario, much to her delight. However, Animelia was not finished yet. She reminded Pencil Gone that she had hit her with 5 spells, noting that the Karmic Straw Doll only reflected up to 5 debuffs. With a sly smile, she challenged Pencil Gone, wondering if she had a counter for her next attack. Flashbacks revealed Rei's intense admiration for Sonraku, showcasing her unrelenting attempts to connect with him despite her shyness. Presently, however, she refused to let the moment pass her by. With fierce determination, she charged into battle to rescue Sonraku, who, despite his initial suspicions about the giant knight, recognized that she might be his only way out of this mess. As Animecaps prepared to unleash her next move, Sonraku braced himself, hoping against hope that this unexpected alliance could turn the tide in their favor. As Animecaps prepared her final attack, the tension in the arena surged. She channeled her mastery skill and declared her intention to unleash a murder-suicide curse, one that would take out both her and her opponent. Pencilgon was cornered, having already used her karmic straw doll, leaving her vulnerable to Animalia's devastating spell. A massive eruption of light engulfed the area, shocking everyone present. Seizing the opportunity amidst the chaos, Sonraku urged Emil to prepare a teleport gate for them, apologizing to Rei for using her head as a launch pad. With the enemy group desperate to prevent his escape to the city teeming with bounty hunters, Rei unleashed her overwhelming power, effortlessly knocking them back. Despite her strength, Rei was caught in a daze, replaying Sonraku's apology in her mind. The Shuai clan members saw this as a chance to make a name for themselves and attempted to strike at Rei, but she was furious, her anger directed at them for interrupting her moment with Sonraku. As they scrambled to escape, Rei wouldn't let them go easily. Her pent-up frustration had to be released. Meanwhile, Sonraku and Emil finally made it back to the inn inside Rabbit Uza. Although Emil had exhausted her magic from the earlier transformation, Sonraku had come prepared, having stocked up on magic restoring items. Just then, Sonraku received an email from Pencilgon, who was incredulous about the attack master's sudden appearance. She acknowledged that her demise was her own fault and proposed a meeting with Sonraku and Katsuo in Unite rounds. Though suspicious of her motives, Sonraku and Katsuo were intrigued by what she had to say. While preparing for their unique scenario, Emil decided it was time for Sonraku to toughen up. She took him to the Vorpal Coliseum, a vast arena where serious training battles occurred. Sonraku was thrilled at the prospect of fighting 10 monsters, but Emil clarified that he would only be permitted to use World weapons. Determined, Sonraku stretched, readying himself for a boss rush training session. However, he was taken aback when his first opponent emerged a pack of hounds, known for always spawning in groups of 5 or more, averaging level 65. Emil assured him that there was no mistake, this was the challenge set before him. Confident yet realistic, Sonraku braced for his first encounter but was swiftly wiped out by the hounds. Back in the real world, Rei reveled in the fact that Sonraku had spoken to her, her mind racing with thoughts of how she could strengthen their bond. Imagining herself sending him a friend request, she fantasized about becoming friends in real life. In the arena, Sonraku was on his 7th attempt against the hounds, realizing that their synchronized attacks were a result of a commanding leader giving orders. Observing their patterns, he noted one hound howling from a distance, never joining the fray. Armed with this new insight, Sonraku executed a spiral edge attack on the leader. As the pack rushed to defend their commander, their coordination faltered. With the leader eliminated, Sonraku faced the remaining hounds without fear, easily dispatching them one by one. His determination and strategic thinking paid off, allowing him to complete the first level of training. Emil cheered for him, proud of her bird-faced companion's growth and resilience. With newfound confidence, Sonraku readied himself for the challenges ahead, determined to wipe that smug smirk off Pencilgon's face in their next encounter. Sonraku hoped for a reprieve in his next challenge, but Emil's reassurance fell flat as he faced the grotesque parasite tentacle. The creature resembled a teddy bear, but with serpents writhing from its back, prompting Sonraku to think he was dealing with another group of monsters. He utilized a hit-and-run strategy, successfully severing the tentacles and winning after 4 attempts. His third opponent was a tough goblin, which surprisingly took only 2 tries, while a wild boar became his 4th opponent, easily defeated on the first try thanks to his previous rodeo experience. However, the 5th challenge, a bizarre acid-spewing bird, proved to be a nightmare, taking him 112 attempts to conquer. The subsequent opponents were simpler, falling to him in just 1 try each. But when he faced his 9th opponent, a mega golem equipped with an invisible energy shield that drained 70% of his HP, he struggled. It took him 7 tries to learn how to break down its defenses little by little. Excitement bubbled in Sonraku as he approached the final opponent, but disappointment quickly set in when he realized he had only gained 2 levels throughout this grueling process. This was largely due to the VPAL soul collar that Vash had forced upon him, cutting his experience gains in half. Noticing the strain on Sonraku's face, Emil encouraged him to take a break, but he dismissed her concern with a comical expression, insisting that everything was going smoothly. Demanding the next monster to step forward, Sonraku was startled to see Vash himself arrive, impressed by Sonraku's progress. Vash explained that Sonraku would now face a newly caught monster which he had painstakingly brought to the arena. Upon freeing the chained creature, Sonraku scrutinized it, suspecting it to be an old dummy fused with a tree for immortality. Vash, however, revealed that this opponent was incredibly strong, and the win condition had changed. Sonraku only needed to survive for 5 minutes. Though initially confident, Sonraku's optimism was quickly crushed when the tree creature unleashed its first attack, summoning roots that forced him to flee. Vash admired Sonraku's confidence but cautioned him that he'd need to back it up if he wanted to survive this encounter. As Sonraku evaded the relentless onslaught of roots and chains, anxiety crept in. He had become the first of over 30 million SLF players to battle this formidable foe, which he would later learn was a terrifying level 120 wood mage. Determined, Sonraku attempted to close the gap, but his attacks barely scratched the tree wizard. Recognizing that physical strikes were futile, he shifted his focus to dodging, realizing this was his only path to victory. Imul chimed in, noting that a minute had passed, leaving 4 remaining. Sonraku's evasive maneuvers grew frantic as the monster's relentless onslaught intensified. The roots became harder to dodge, and the chains threatened to crush him at every turn. Each attack seemed to adapt, with the wood mage mixing elemental spells into its routine first electricity, then fireballs, and now ice spells. As the barrage increased in density and scope, Sonraku realized that if the pattern continued, he wouldn't survive much longer. Desperation clawed at him as he fought to stay alive, every second counting down towards the elusive 5-minute mark. With Imul's worried glances urging him on, Sonraku steeled himself, knowing he had to outlast this monstrous foe to claim victory. As the countdown ticked down, purple mist erupted from the ground, a new spell in the wood mage's relentless arsenal. The fight began to feel futile as the creature nullified physical attacks while continually unleashing new assaults. Fatigue settled over Sonraku. He was so tired that thoughts began to blur. For a moment, he contemplated retreating home, finding a snack, and devising a strategy to tackle the fight later. With no real penalty for losing, what did it matter? Just then, Sonraku snapped back to reality. He recalled facing the mud digger, where despair had led him to give up and rely on Imul. Determined not to repeat that mistake, he let out a battle cry, reinvigorated with newfound resolve. "I'm no pushover," he declared, remembering the countless trash games he had played. It's time to level up from trash gamium to god gamium. Imul and Vash sensed the shift in his energy. Sonraku pushed forward, sprinting down a route that led him closer to the tree monster. "I won't give up," he shouted, and Vash was impressed that Sonraku managed to dodge through the storm of attacks to reach melee range. However, Vash pointed out that Sonraku could only dish out basic attacks, which seemed futile. But Sonraku surprised everyone by kicking the monster's staff out of its grasp. Exhausted, he realized that while the tree nullified physical damage, his kick still connected. He thought about what might happen if the monster couldn't reclaim its staff. Without it, casting spells was impossible. But the creature still had its roots and chains to wield. Drawing on his years of gaming experience, Sonraku activated his snatching skills from Unite rounds and seized the staff. Vash and Emil both gasped in surprise, but the timer showed 2 minutes remaining time for Sonraku to prove himself. Suddenly, the tree monster went berserk, its fury unleashed in an intense barrage of attacks. Sonraku wished he had received a warning, feeling the pressure mounting. Yet little Imul cheered him on, urging him to hold on for just 1 more minute. This was the moment Sonraku's mobility build was made for. He couldn't afford to fail now. But then disaster struck. A chain snared him, applying debilitating debuffs that would hinder his evasive maneuvers. The tree wizard closed in, ready to crush him. In a desperate move, Sonraku hurled the staff skyward, distracting the creature long enough for it to chase after it. To his disbelief, the monster retrieved the staff, and Sonraku couldn't resist mocking its foolishness for abandoning the attack. But then, as if sensing victory slipping away, the wood mage continued its assault despite the time being up. Sonraku ran for his life, insisting the fight should be over. Just as despair threatened to close in, Vash intervened, declaring that the 5 minutes were up, promptly deleting the monster from existence. Sonraku, now the winner, was stunned by Vash's display of power. "How could you do that?" he asked, bewildered. Vash explained that the monster could only nullify physical attacks when it possessed its staff. Without it, it was just an animated tree. Emil arrived to celebrate, and Sonraku was eager to learn about his reward for completing the quest. Vash declared him an honorary Rabbit-Tuzen, but Sonraku was disappointed that he didn't receive a rare item. Instead, Vash removed the VPAL collar from around Sonraku's neck, officially concluding the unique scenario. As the rabbits departed, Vash hinted at a bonus unique scenario called VPAL Epic, but Sonraku felt upset that he didn't obtain any real loot, logging out of the game feeling let down. It was late, so he decided to catch up on sleep. The following morning, he skimmed through a message indicating that the recommended level for the bonus scenario was 80, while he sat at a mere level 31. Despite the rich lore behind the quest, Sonraku had no interest in reading it all, feeling more like a player frustrated by a lack of tangible rewards than the hero he aspired to be. Overwhelmed and outmatched, Sonraku decided to step back from the unique scenarios that had been consuming his attention. Instead, he planned to explore the town and the next area. As Emil finished watering her plants, she joined him, eager to move forward. Sonraku realized, though, that his current appearance would make him a prime target for player killers and info hunters. Changing his headgear wouldn't be enough, his unique marks would still attract unwanted attention. Emil, ever resourceful, suggested he cover his entire form. Sonraku had no idea how to do that, but Emil knew just the place Rabbit Uja, where her little brother Pete sold goods. Pete had a knack for acquiring rare items, but he transformed into a human to sell them elsewhere, limiting his business operations. When they arrived, Pete greeted Sonraku as Birdman. To prove he was indeed human, Sonraku removed his mask. Emil gasped, surprised that he would remove it without a compelling reason. As Pete rummaged through his inventory for a rare item he recently found, Sonraku was curious about what it might be. Moments later, a peculiar item appeared, some sort of bedsheet. Emil couldn't help but chuckle as Sonraku donned the fabric, resembling a ghost in a Halloween costume. As they headed out to get a map for the area around Third Rem, Sonraku couldn't contain his disdain for the bedsheet costume. He hated it, but as he calmed down, he recognized that he had secured everything he needed. He noticed that Emil burned through magic power really fast in human form as she chugged down another potion. They needed to move to the next area, where they had 3 routes available: the fake caldera, a serene lake formed in the crater of a long-extinct volcano, the prismatic forest grotto, a maze of lush caverns overflowing with plant life, and the iron ruins of divinity, remnants of the era of divinity, known for its hovering iron boards. Realizing the gravity of their decision, Sonraku quieted Emil when she suggested the fake caldera. He declared they must avoid the ruins of divinity at all costs, convinced it was a trap. While he was busy complimenting his own brilliant strategy, Emil noticed a figure in armor watching them, a creepy stalker vibe that set off alarm bells. Meanwhile, we cut to a ship docked elsewhere, where Orsat, the leader of the Shuai clan, berated his subordinates for their failure. Disappointment marred his expression as he dismissed their excuses, emphasizing the stakes tied to the unique scenario. They had to anticipate top players showing up, as the secret of the unique scenario hung in the balance. Penelon, part of the clan, challenged Orsat, suggesting he should have handled things himself. She argued that they should focus on unique monsters instead, as those monsters weren't intended to be beaten. But Orsat countered, stressing their knowledge of unique monster spawn conditions, which could offer them an edge. With strategic planning, they could gain significant experience just by encountering these beasts. While the rest of the clan considered avoiding direct confrontation, Penelon scoffed, deeming them useless. She was determined to pursue her objectives regardless of the risk involved. The last patch had made player killing riskier, forcing the clan to adapt, but she was ready to stake everything to hunt down a unique monster, the Toombu, one of the 7 colossi known as Weatherman. Back with Sonraku, he sensed danger lurking as he caught a glimpse of Saiger Zero, whom he feared had come to exact revenge for their previous encounter. He urged Emil to run, recognizing the potential threat. As Sonraku darted away, nearby members of Arai spotted him. To them, he was just a guy in a bed sheet, but when they saw his player name hovering above him, Sonraku, they quickly realized who he was. They weren't confused by his ghostly disguise and began to pursue him. Chaos erupted as Sonraku dashed away, frantically urging Emil to move on to the next area. The Ashwai members were determined to track him down, believing he would head toward the Iron Ruins. As they contacted their other clan members, they prepared an ambush, lying in wait at the exit gate for Sonraku to emerge. Emil reminded Sonraku that they were supposed to head to the Prismatic Forest Grotto, but he insisted he was intentionally going the wrong way to throw off any pursuers. He knew the Ashwai clan would be waiting for him at the gate to the Iron Ruins, so he planned to lose them in a nearby alley. The ruse worked perfectly, and once he lost sight of them, they decided to wait at the gate. Disguised under his bedsheet, Sonraku took the opportunity to teach Emil a thing or two about deception. They eventually reached their true destination, but their moment of peace was shattered when Saiger Zero appeared behind them. Sonraku, still believing the giant knight was a guy, feared the worst. Relief washed over him when Saiger Zero sent him a friend request. She mumbled something about wanting to be friends, but her voice was so low that he couldn't make out a word. Doubt crept in. Was she really a girl? He considered the possibility that she was trying to lower his guard, but then again, if she had meant him harm, he would likely already be in trouble. Sonraku's trust issues flared up as he contemplated whether she was just trying to befriend him to extract information about the scenario. Despite his apprehensions, he felt confident as a gamer seasoned in PvP encounters. Ready for anything, he accepted her friend request. His little dream of companionship finally realized. Saiger Zero's luck in finding him brightened her day, and she offered to help him navigate the game. However, Sonraku interpreted her offer as a way to ensnare him in her debt, so he politely declined, stating he didn't want to be carried. Saiger Zero apologized and wished him luck, and he returned the favor, even noting how she was a good stepping stone during their last encounter. After their brief farewell, Emil found it odd how quickly she backed off, while Sonraku contemplated the situation. Emil pointed out how powerful Saiger Zero seemed, estimating her strength to be 4 or 5 times greater than Sonraku's. Despite that, he had no clue what a Vorpal soul was, and he decided to put the encounter behind him. As they moved on, Emil realized the truth Saiger Zero was an NPC, but she felt elated at finally having a friend in Sonraku after he accepted her request. Meanwhile, the Ashwai clan members figured out they had been duped and headed toward the Prismatic Forest, only to spot the terrifying attack master, causing them to flee in fear. Finally, in the forest, Sonraku and Emil could relax. Emil transformed back into a bunny, while Sonraku reverted to his bird form. The tunnel they entered was illuminated by glowing moss, and Sonraku shared tales of his adventures, reminiscing about tunnels from other games filled with dangers like guns pointed at him and beautiful shooting stars. Yet nothing compared to the breathtaking sights of this forest, teeming with unique creatures like empire work bees and strange insects known as storage bugs. Excited by the new area, Sonraku decided to take down one of the storage bugs, hoping for a valuable item drop. Unfortunately, he failed to catch it, noting that while the bug had a hefty belly, it was surprisingly light on its wings. Despite the initial setback, he was determined as long as he didn't damage the bug's stomach, he could snag it as loot. Emil cheered him on, and Sonraku, reinvigorated, suggested they continue gathering item drops. Spotting another target, he discovered a throwing knife he had purchased earlier. Though melee was his only combat option, memories of a traumatic encounter with a poop bird haunted him. He used the throwing knife to strike a flower, only to reveal it was a camouflage mantis. Determined, he demanded it turn into loot and successfully dispatched it, earning more cheers from Emil. Sonraku then checked his inventory, surprised by how much loot he had already amassed, but one creature remained unfought. Just then, the ground trembled as a giant beetle, measuring at least 5 meters long, appeared, drinking tree sap on the turf of the Empire bees. The bees, loyal to their queen, fiercely attacked the lone beetle. Sonraku excitedly narrated the unfolding battle, highlighting the beetle's resilience. Emil, eager to contribute, attempted commentary but struggled with improvisation. The intense clash continued, with the beetle utilizing its horn to push toward the bee's nest. As the queen bee prepared to command her army for the final blow, the beetle seized its opportunity and charged at her, victorious. With their leader defeated, the remaining bees scattered. However, the victory was short-lived as the furious beetle turned its attention towards Sonraku and Emil. They fled, with Sonraku frantically explaining he only wanted to collect the loot. Emil pointed out that the beetle likely mistook them for intruders after its ate. In a moment of quick thinking, Sonraku tossed a stomach sack at the mantis, bursting it open. The beetle, drawn to the commotion, redirected its focus on the mantis instead. Seizing the opportunity, Sonraku targeted the cracks in the beetle's armor, landing critical hits thanks to some unexpected good luck. Soon, the once mighty warrior beetle was reduced to nothing more than a pile of loot. With his inventory now brimming with items, Sonraku decided to take a breather from further collection. Emil hesitated at exploiting the bee's labor, but Sonraku explained that it was a harsh world one, where survival often meant taking advantage of the food chain. Sonraku recalled that the area boss lurking nearby was a spider known as the clown spider. Emil informed him that they were getting closer to its lair, especially with the abundance of spider webs around them. Driven by his fearless attitude, Sonraku decided to enter a cave, unaware that the terrifying spider awaited him inside. A quick flashback revealed a different group of adventurers, where one girl expressed her fear as their leader insisted they could defeat the area boss. However, the overconfident leader soon found himself ensnared in a spider web, and their panic escalated as they encountered the horrific clown spider. Back in the present, Sonraku approached the cave only to find it blocked by other players engaged in battle with the boss. The pink-haired adventurer from before crashed down, lamenting having to climb back up. Though he remained optimistic, he was swiftly flattened by the boss, and Sonraku offered a silent prayer for the fallen adventurer. Despite the grim circumstances, he felt ready to take his turn. Emil was shocked by his nonchalance, but Sonraku reminded her that players simply respawn in Third Rima. Once inside the cave, they discovered the bodies of unfortunate players who had come before them. Confidently, Sonraku instructed Emil to stay back, declaring he would face the clown spider alone without taking damage. Emil thought he was insane, but he was resolute in his decision. With a shout, he called out to the area boss. As he ascended deeper into the lair, the webs became denser, and he had to think quickly. Using his new skill, One Bolt Leap, Sonraku dodged falling boulders with ease, while Emil barely managed to escape. She warned him to be cautious of the webs, fearing he might get stuck, but he confidently revealed his expertise. Horizontal radial lines of spider webs weren't sticky. With careful movements and an acceleration skill, he climbed faster, leaving Emil to dodge rocks for her life. Finally, Sonraku confronted the clown spider, skillfully dodging its initial attacks. He unleashed a new technique, Loop Slash, severing one of the spider's legs. Realizing this wouldn't be enough, he followed up with Rush Slash, dealing significantly more damage. The spider lost its balance and fell, and Emil noted that such a fall would inflict substantial damage. As the spider attempted to web itself for stability, Sonraku quickly countered with a throwing knife, forcing it to crash to the ground. He knew that wasn't enough to finish it off, so he glanced up at the ceiling, spotting a collection of heavy objects. An idea formed in his mind. As the clown spider readied itself for another round, Sonraku began dropping boulders and trees to crush the monster. Emil cheered, believing her hero was on the verge of victory. However, the spider started to rise again, and Emil questioned Sonraku's approach. It became clear that he wasn't satisfied with a victory like that. He wanted to prove his worth against the area boss head-on. In a bold move, Sonraku leapt down from above, landing a critical strike on the spider, The clown spider exploded in a spectacular display, leaving nothing behind but a sense of triumph for Sonraku and Emil. Emil rushed to celebrate Sonraku's victory, declaring him the winner. He had accomplished his goal of defeating the clown spider without taking damage or dying. Just then, a message from Pencil Knight popped up, but he wasn't the only one receiving it. A blonde girl named Katsu also got the message. She expressed disappointment upon hearing that bosses were difficult to solo since she had just taken down a mud digger herself. Meanwhile, at the game shop, Rei excitedly informed Mana that she no longer needed to stalk Recur, as they were now friends. She gushed about her crush on him, especially since he had skipped the first town and somehow acquired an untamable V-Pal bunny. Rei eagerly awaited Sonraku's arrival at the shop, but her hopes were dashed when a random guy walked in. It turned out Sonraku hadn't been to the shop in several days, leading Mana to assume he was busy playing SLF. Given Sonraku's unpredictable nature, she speculated he might be the first to defeat a unique monster. As Rei walked home, she was stunned to spot Sonraku browsing in another store. Quickly slipping into her stalking mode again, she watched him read about KSO's interview. KSO was not only a pro gamer but also known for being a massive trash talker. Sonraku also read about an upcoming summer update for SLF, prompting him to reflect on his recent meeting with Pencilgon. In another game, Pencilgon was seen discussing the lack of visits from her guests since the last time they raided her castle. Sonraku and Katsu reminisced about the fun they had destroying her castle, laughing at how Pencilgon still seemed upset about it. She soon cut their banter short, bringing the conversation back to business. Pencilgon proposed that they team up to defeat a unique monster named Weatherman, the Tomb Guard. The boys exchanged shocked glances, realizing Weatherman was a unique monster akin to the one Sonraku had already fought. Katsu expressed keen interest in unique monsters. Pencilgon explained the seriousness of the situation, emphasizing that they had to be careful as Weatherman became stronger with more opponents. Despite trying to take it down with a team of the Ashur Kai's 15 best members, they had failed. Sonraku, puzzled, wondered why she was asking two lower-level players like them instead of seasoned max-level players. Pencilgon seemed to read his mind, explaining that they needed pure gaming skills rather than just high levels. That was why she chose Katsu, a pro gamer, and Sonraku, who had godly skills. As a trash gamer, Sonraku felt a pang of indignation at this comparison, especially when Katsu didn't disagree. Pencilgon pressed them for a decision, offering rewards for their participation. Sonraku, sensing something was off, refused to commit until she revealed her secret. Though Pencilgon reluctantly disclosed it, the secret remained unheard by the audience. As Sonraku exited the shop, Rei called out to him from her hiding spot. Caught off guard, he remembered her as a girl from one of his classes a year ago. Rei awkwardly stared at him, and Muro struggled to recall her name until he finally did. She pointed out the coincidence of their meeting. Noting that Sonraku was buying gaming supplies while she was heading to judo practice, she mentioned that Mana had informed her he was playing SLF and expressed her desire to play together. However, Sonraku got distracted by an urgent message from Pencilgon and rushed off, leaving Rei relieved that she managed to converse with him. Once home, Sonraku loaded up SLF, contemplating whether he should have asked for Rei's in-game name. Emil greeted him eagerly, but he had something important to discuss. Sonraku revealed his plan to fight Weatherman in 2 weeks and mentioned considering removing her from the party during that time. Emil panicked at the mention of Weatherman, rushing off to inform her mafia boss father, leaving Sonraku confused about her reaction. He had no time to dwell on it, needing to prepare for his meeting with Pencilgon. Flashing back to their earlier conversation, he had asked her about including Emil, an NPC, in their plans. Pencilgon, clearly familiar with the little bunny, shocked him by saying that once an NPC died in SLF, they wouldn't respond. This revelation left Sonraku with heavy concerns about the impending battle. Sometime later, Emil's father, Vash, summoned Sonraku to hear his plans firsthand. He wanted to confirm if Sonraku truly intended to confront the entity known as the Death to Fire. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Sonraku understood that role-playing might be the best tactic to navigate this meeting. If he played his cards right, he could gain valuable information about Weatherman. Determined, Sonraku aimed to persuade Vash by using the key term Vorpal Soul. Vash reminded him of his own weaknesses and cautioned against taking on Weatherman. Sonraku dramatically countered, stating he wasn't taking on the challenge with the belief of winning. Instead, he planned to act as support while his teammate would do the heavy lifting. He elaborated on a group of murderers exploiting Weatherman for personal gain, racking up experience by engaging him repeatedly. Sonraku explained that Rikuro's teammate, who had defected from this group, wanted to put an end to the conflict once and for all. Vash remained skeptical, insisting that no amount of preparation would suffice if they lacked strength. A poorly prepared mission could only lead to self-destruction. Sonraku assured him of their intent to uphold their leader's will to defeat Weatherman, claiming that helping her was essentially upholding his own Vorpal Soul. He insisted that all he needed was 2 weeks for Vash to transform him from an inexperienced fool into a worthy challenger against a formidable foe. Vash seemed to waver as he began discussing honor, mentioning an awkward man Sonraku assumed he he meant weatherman. Vash recounted how this man was overly serious, forever burdened by a lie that had cost him his wife, leaving him a cursed, undying corpse. Thus, someone needed to defeat him and offer him rest. While Vash swore he wouldn't take on that task himself, he wouldn't stop Sonraku either, especially with his beloved daughter urging him to assist. Following Vash's lead, Sonraku was surprised when they arrived at a blacksmith's forge. Celebrating his success in advancing the Rabbit Yususa event, he was introduced to the blacksmith Book, who was revealed to be another of Emel's siblings. Sonraku pondered if all the bunnies in Ratua were Vash's children. Upon being introduced, Book noted Sonraku's resemblance to someone named Evil, and Vash inspected Rikuro's V-Pal weapons with satisfaction. He decided to ascend them, much to Book's shock, as it had been years since Vash had wielded a hammer himself. Vash explained that he had to do something if Sonraku was to face the death to fire. Book, filled with excitement, prepared the forge. Vash then asked Sonraku if he had any quality materials from his battles. Searching his inventory, Sonraku produced a quad beetle shell, which had withstood attacks from Empire bees. Vash deemed it an excellent material for forging. Book informed Sonraku that he was fortunate, as Vash hadn't held a hammer for many years, not since before he became the king of rabbits. Emil excitedly revealed that Vash wasn't just any blacksmith, he was a master craftsman with knowledge of divine forgery, earning him the title of a divine craftsman, second to none. As Vash began hammering away at Rikuro's weapons, Sonraku was amazed to see magic circles appear with each strike. Book explained that ascending involved reading the memories and experiences that weapons earned in battle, reshaping them into their true forms. In essence, it was a technique that elevated weapons to their ultimate state, especially those with Vorpal in their names, which held the memories of battles against powerful foes. Vash combined the memories of fighting with Rikuro's hand and the power of the strong foe embedded in the material Sonraku had provided. As the forging process continued, Book pointed out that Sonraku had fought the law evenly, making them eager to see what new weapon would emerge from this endeavor. Vash began to sing as he worked on the weapons, but Sonraku had to be reminded to quiet down. This was a critical moment. The little rabbits watched in awe, captivated by the master blacksmith's rhythm and prowess. After what felt like an eternity, Vash finally proclaimed that the V-Pal choppers had acquired their true form and named the Moonblade Waxing and Moonblade Waning. These two swords originated from one blade, and only when paired together would they reveal their true value. Sonraku, filled with excitement, immediately checked the stats for the waxing blade. He discovered that when used against higher level enemies, it decreased the wielder's HP upon landing a critical hit, but also provided a damage bonus for the next attack. Meanwhile, the waning blade restored HP under the same conditions. It became clear that these blades were designed to complement each other perfectly. As Sonraku read further, he noted that a fusion gauge would fill up after landing several critical strikes. The prospect of the blades fusing together thrilled him, and he was eager to try them out. However, disappointment washed over him when he realized he lacked the necessary stats to equip them. The required stats were 150, and he currently had only 57. Given that players gained 5 points per level, it dawned on him that he needed to reach level 50 before he could wield them. His friends attempted to console him, but their words fell flat. He longed to use his new weapons immediately. Later, in a different scene, Sonraku arrived late to his meeting with Pinogon and Katsuo, who were furious. 3 hours had passed since the start of the meeting. Sonraku explained that he'd been busy with a unique scenario that had developed after encountering Weatherman. Pinogon decided to let him off the hook, provided he shared any insights he gained. Katsuo was incredulous, and Miro couldn't help but tease Katsuo about his choice of a blonde avatar, leading to an exchange of playful jabs about their designs and appearances. Pinogon had chosen a low-traffic area for the meeting, given Sonraku's notoriety and the number of players seeking him out. He then caught them up on everything he learned about Weatherman the Tomb Guard. Katsuo speculated whether they were dealing with some kind of undead monster, and Pinogon recalled that Weatherman's movements had seemed unusual. She had initially assumed he was cyborg, but undead made more sense. Strangely, Pinogon stated she had something to take care of and instructed them to meet later that night, advising them to grind for experience in the Iron Ruins. She handed them a fishing rod and a map, leaving the boys puzzled about how those items would be beneficial. Pinogon promised it would all make sense upon their arrival. As she prepared to leave, Pinogon noticed something peculiar about the little bunny on Rikuro's back. She recalled sensing something was off the moment Sonraku entered and questioned whether he thought his disguise was effective. Sonraku put on his best act, claiming he was just following the latest fashion trend. To his surprise, Pinogon was taken aback that he had managed to fool at least one person, as Katsuo joined in on the confusion. Deciding to drop the issue, Pinogon exited, and the two guys excitedly readied themselves for grinding. However, Sonraku needed a moment to assess the safest route. Katsuo, initially hyped, felt disheartened that he now had to be stealthy due to his association with Sonraku. Emil expressed her distress, revealing that she was experiencing a serious earache and wanted to move around for a bit. Katsuo finally noticed something was amiss, and was startled to to see that Rikuro's equipment was speaking. The jig was up, prompting Sonraku to let Emil free. She mentioned that she'd been observing how long it would take Katsuo to notice her presence. Upon realizing Emil was the NPC from the unique scenario, Katsuo expressed envy, wishing he had one too, but Sonraku teased him to get his own. They soon arrived at the entrance to the Iron Ruins, and Sonraku reiterated his goal of reaching level 50 as quickly as possible. Katsuo revealed this was his first time in a party, and it was also Sonraku's first time partying with another player. As they reached the entrance to the Iron Ruins of Divinity, both felt a surge of excitement. The area had a distinctly different vibe from the rest of the game. In a brief flashback, the group held a strategy meeting. Panogon explained that at the start of the battle, Weatherman activated a skill that set the max level of all characters in the area, except for him, to level 50. The stakes were high, and the atmosphere was charged with anticipation for the challenges ahead. The boys stood in shock, processing the revelation that Weatherman was an insane level 200. It quickly became clear why their levels didn't matter. Against him, player skill was the key to survival. Still new to the game, they knew they had to grind to reach level 50 if they wanted to stand a chance. Returning to the present, Sonraku and Katsuo entered the Iron Ruins of Divinity. They searched for a hidden area ideal for grinding, as Pinogon had suggested, but the search was taking longer than expected. The atmosphere inside the ruins felt entirely different from the outside world, with black panels sliding around chaotically. Sonraku, ever the trash game player, quipped that they could probably do some cool stuff by glitching out the platforms. Katsuo knew his friend well and urged him to wash away the trash game mentality. The eerie ambience reminded Katsuo of a god-tier sci-fi game, but Sonraku was more concerned about his own level. Kat revealed he was level 25, prompting Sonraku to mock him for still being in the 20s. Sonraku, at level 31, wasn't too far ahead though, which Katsuo quickly pointed out. Emil, in her own way, unintentionally roasted Katsuo by commenting that Sonraku was just worried about how weak and frail he looked. Suddenly, she warned them to be careful as a massive structure called the Giant Suppression Dome almost crushed them. It was clearly an enemy, but Kat confidently told Sonraku to sit this one out. Emil wondered if that was truly okay, but Sonraku trusted in his friend's abilities. With determination, Kat prepared to fight, explaining that no matter how low a level you were, skill could still give players a chance. He charged forward and destroyed the drone with a single punch, impressing his teammates. Kat elaborated that the red glow on his hands came from a spell that enhanced his strength and vitality. More enemies appeared, and Kat explained his character build a Spirit Fist user monk who couldn't equip weapons but compensated by giving himself buffs and delivering powerful punches. He had focused most of his stats on HP and vitality. After finishing off the enemies, he glanced at Rikuro and guessed his build, assuming Sonraku was a glass cannon focused on strength and agility. Sonraku corrected him, revealing he was luck and agility focused, while little Emil added that Sonraku had a Vorpal soul, though no one seemed to know what that meant. They continued their long trek, carefully following the detailed instructions on the map Pinogon had provided. The map took them through multiple directions and rooms, leaving them in awe of the effort it must have taken to create it. Finally, the instructions led them to jump down a hole. They paused, skeptical that it wasn't some sort of prank designed to eliminate them. "I don't want the glass cannon to insta-die going down there," Katsuo said, taking the lead. Emil remarked on Katsuo's bravery, but Sonraku felt the need to clarify that Katsuo was actually a guy. "Come down, you loser," Katsuo called out, prompting Sonraku to get furious. In a fit of rage, he jumped down, eager to seek revenge, but quickly forgot about the insult upon landing in the hidden area. According to Pinogon's instructions, they found themselves at a tranquil lake where they could fish for a monster known as the Lifesteal Lake Serpent. Katsuo voiced doubt about catching anything with their puny rods, but they decided to give it a shot. The two friends were competitive by nature, determined to see who could catch the most. Sonraku had fond memories of fishing with his father, so he quickly put his knowledge of tips and tricks to use. He felt a bite almost immediately, but Katsuo pointed out that Sonraku's luck was likely the reason. Sonraku managed to reel in a salmon, but everyone was left speechless when Kat pulled out a massive Lifesteal Lake Serpent, a powerful beast. Seeing this, Sonraku decided it was time to unveil his new weapon. "I know I'm too low level to equip the Moonblades," he began, but with a dramatic flourish, he revealed his latest creation, the Empire B Twin Blades. Katsuo's eyes widened in disbelief as Sonraku brandished the weapons, ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. The anticipation of their next battle filled the air with excitement, signaling a turning point in their adventure. The moment the Lifesteal Lake Serpent launched its attack, chaos erupted. Nima quickly explained to Katsuo that she had her sister craft these blades for Sonraku. A flashback revealed the little bunny, focused and determined, carefully completing the blades made from the rare Empire B Queen material Sonraku had provided. As he watched, Sonraku felt a twinge of guilt when he almost forgot the bunny's name, Bylok. It struck him that he might have to manage affection levels with rabbits beyond just Emul and Vash, leading to a wave of panic. Traumatizing memories from a trash dating simulator flooded his mind. In that game, he had to balance the affection levels of numerous girls, and any slight mistake would result in a bad ending where all the girls moved to Italy to work in a pizzeria. His character, Sonru Picklefish, would have his adolescence crushed beneath a pizza stone. Snapping out of his spiraling thoughts, he quickly turned to Bylok, complimenting her on crafting his new blades. She proudly revealed that the right-hand blade had a special attribute. With renewed focus, Sonraku readied himself to put it to work against the serpent. The battle was tough, despite their best efforts. The boys struggled to inflict more than a scratch on the massive creature. Sonraku explained that some weapons, skills, spells, and monster attacks have a corrosion attribute. If enough damage is dealt to a specific part of an avatar, it creates a visible weak point. Bylok chimed in, explaining that her right-hand weapon doesn't corrode normally, it infects the attacked part and corrodes it over time, more like a corrosive poison. If you keep hitting the same spot, it builds up and breaks through the enemy's debuff resistance, revealing the corrosive attribute faster. Finally, after a concentrated assault, Sonraku managed to create a weak spot. Katsuo focused all his strength on it, and with a collective effort, they began to hurt the serpent. Just then, Amul, eager to join the fight, found herself targeted by the beast. Muro couldn't reach her in time, but Katsuo leaped in, taking the hit himself. Fortunately, his tank-like build allowed him to survive. He stunned the serpent, giving the others the opening they needed. Together, they unleashed a powerful combined attack, and after a tense struggle, they triumphed. The victory was worth it. The experience gained propelled the boys up the levels, with Katsuo advancing 4 levels and unlocking a slew of new skills. He wondered if he could link these skills, but Sonraku interjected, assuming Katsuo was mistaken about the mechanics of SLF. He didn't even know what skill linking was, but Katsuo insisted it was a possibility, explaining that SLF is a game all about skills and that he should have learned this in Firsta. Sonraku had skipped right past that starter town, and now he felt the weight of his ignorance. Katsuo elaborated that skills with proficiency levels can be linked up at a place called the Skill Garden, where they can create new combo skills. Realization dawned on Sonraku, so that's why some of his skills were changing names. It meant they could be linked. His panic grew as he realized there was so much he hadn't learned. Katsuo then mentioned sub-jobs and guilds, and Sonraku nearly freaked out again. Determined not to dwell on what he had missed, he resolved to continue grinding. Later, the boys regrouped with Pino Gon, who was pleased with their progress. Katsuo was now level 40, and Sonraku was level 42, significantly ahead of schedule. Katsuo tried to explain how little Sonraku knew, but Sonraku quickly shushed him. Katsuo was impressed with Emil's power, and Mura revealed that his precious little bunny friend was already level 56. Despite their achievements, time was of the essence, prompting Pino Gon to use an expensive tent that doubled as a safe point. It was time to meet someone. Tonight was the only chance they'd have to speak with her. She was a unique NPC named Setsuna, and they needed her help to fight Weatherman. Meanwhile, somewhere in the quiet night, Setsuna could be seen singing softly by a tree, her presence a beacon of hope for the weary adventurers as they prepared for the challenges that lay ahead. Thanks for joining me on this adventure. If you enjoyed the journey, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more epic content. Let me know what you think in the comments, and don't miss out on the next video. There's always more fun, surprises, and challenges ahead. Until next time, stay awesome and keep exploring.